Hi, this is Terry Healy bringing you some extraordinary transformation. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You're listening to WVLP at 103.1 FM, also live streaming at WVLP.org. Today's show is brought to you by Ryan Everhart with Diamond Residential Mortgage. Don't assume that all mortgage companies are the same or that all loan professionals are the same. They're not. Ryan has the utmost concern for his clients and their families and their pocketbooks. If you're in the need for a mortgage, give him a call. He's at area code 219-707-8429. His office is conveniently located at Route 30, 350 Northland Drive in Valparaiso. Ryan, thank you as always for supporting my show and supporting community radio. So thanks everybody who's tuning in. Today I have a guest that kind of hit the radar in a very unique way. I think I met somebody that was affiliated with the organization, and phone call to phone call to phone call, I end up with the gentleman that I have in front of me. I'd like to introduce you to Tim Wright, and he is the District Director for the Fraternal Order of Eagles. One of the things that caught my eye, and the reason why I think we've gotten to the point of actually like, let's do a radio show, is, we see these organizations out there that are doing things out there, but we really don't understand what different organizations are actually doing in the community, what their focus is, what their intention is. So this is a real good opportunity to explore that. I have never actually sat down with anybody from the Fraternal Order of Eagles, so I'm real unfamiliar with the organization completely. Tim, I'm going to let you take it from there. Can you give us a little bit of background about the organization itself? And
yes, the Fraternal Order of Eagles is a international nonprofit organization, fraternal organization. We're about people helping people. We have some 800,000 members across 1,500 locations across America and Canada, and they're spread throughout different communities. And our focus is on helping our local communities, both very local to the organizations, the individuals, and also in larger efforts across the state and nationally. We, as a nonprofit, operate nonprofit, and the monies that are gathered beyond our expenses, we use for charity and for helping people. Everything from very small things like close to us, we have a back-to-school event where we get 70 or 80 backpacks and fill them full of pens and pencils and notebooks and things and give them to the children locally, all the way up to the national organization funding a diabetes research foundation in Iowa that was started some 4 or 5 years ago, largely due to our contributions. And so it's both very large and very, very small.
Wow. So on the local level, do you guys then kind of sit down and decide where you want to show up and how you want to contribute, or are those things like always the same kind of things that you're doing year in year?
It comes and goes. We have multiple meetings throughout the month at each of our locations, and then different meetings at larger communities of within the county or within the state or even nationally, and we focus on what can we do. We at our local organization each year give money to the Red Cross, for instance.
Yeah.
And each year
Nice.
we do things very locally for the children in our immediate vicinity to the greatest extent possible. However, we also take some of our monies and donate them to state and even the national organization. So it's both local and not.
Do you know what's the current focus on a national level for the Eagles?
The national, I'm not sure about. The state of Indiana currently has a state project every year, and currently we're helping the Riley's Children's Hospital near Indianapolis, and specifically their heart center. They have children who are after birth are found to have heart defects, and they go in, a surgery is performed, and there's a second and a third surgery in one particular problem that children sometimes have. And the parents bring the child home, but it's wonderful to leave the hospital, but it's also very disconcerting for the parent to be caring for such a young child that has serious problems. And so they've come up with a program where iPads are purchased through Eagle's donations, and they're used, and the parent then enters information from the child or data into the iPad, and that's then webbed over to the medical professionals who look at it, and they then make recommendations, or they say, oh dear, there's something quite wrong, bring the child to the hospital right away. And in so doing, they've had a great success. The mortality has significantly dropped from previously 17% down to less than 6%. So there's a dramatic
that's huge
impact upon people's lives.
Does it communicate like in the event that like there's an emergency or whatever, or is it just more that they're looking at the records every so often?
Well, all the records are available, and also there's this link between the parent at home with the child and the medical professionals, and so when the parent is concerned, they have an easy link to the medical professionals, and so it helps the parent be more comfortable being at home with a severely ill child or with a very challenging condition.
Sure.
And it brings it's easier for the parents to know they can do this and to have that link to the medical professionals.
Right.
And in some cases, they've even, as they've been going to a healthcare facility or your nearest ER, the people have been talking them through what they need to do in the minutes it takes to get to someplace. So it's been it's wonderful. And this is just this year's particular example. Every year there's a different project.
So let me ask you a few more questions about this project because this is real intriguing. So is this a system that they developed for the children that only in that conversation that are dealing with their heart things, or do they use this in different areas with different other illnesses that a child could be going through?
First, it was one particular condition where a left ventricle wasn't developing properly, one portion of the heart. And now, since they've seen the success and thought how it might be used beyond that, there are other heart-related conditions that they've applied this technology and this program to.
Yeah.
So they're expanding. And once they found something good, they're expanding upon it.
Sure. It's like almost like trying it out and making sure that it works out in the real world, and then kind of seeing where else it could. I got to tell you, you're describing it, and my head just goes. There's like so many other areas that this could be utilized. Like this is, and I just kind of my head. I'm always looking for I see things in very different ways, but like almost like could it be a technology that could be very much kind of addressing the fact of life-threatening conditions and life-threatening incidents in somebody's life is kind of a...
Surely, and they've begun they've just begun this program in Indiana here in 2017.
Okay.
And so already in a couple of years they've expanded it somewhat.
Okay.
And I suspect that'll continue as the general idea finds other areas where it can be beneficial.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I just see and also technology increasing and improving. I can imagine that's going to be happening as well.
Well, it's one thing for us all to be tied to our cell phones, God forbid, but here we're now harnessing this technology for something useful and valuable and saving children's lives.
Right.
As opposed to all the other goofy things going on with cell phone technology.
Exactly. All the other things it's used for. Not quite so kindly. Yeah, we get that. That's a whole other show, Jim.
I suspect so.
Yeah. We could have that show, but that's not today's. Well, I love it. I love that's the focal point. So 2020, is that your 2020 project or is it your 2019? Just to kind of get
our year runs June 1st through May 31st.
Okay, gotcha.
And every state president chooses in the year before becoming president his state project.
Oh.
And so this year's president, Charlie Riggs, a very nice guy out of Goshen, Indiana, has chosen this.
Yeah.
And next year's president, currently the vice president, will come up with his idea.
So he gets to choose, and it's not like it goes up for vote. It's just kind of what speaks to his heart is what he takes.
I think so. Yes.
Oh, that's kind of nifty.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like a little bit more of an inducement to actually take on the responsibility of being the president. Is you get to choose that project.
Yeah, and to be meaningful in a way that you choose. So it's good for him and good for they.
Yeah, agreed. I like that. So how many years have you guys been focused on Riley's, or is this kind of your first?
No, there's a number of the state projects have been focused on Riley, not exclusively, but because children's hospitals are easy to decide this is a good idea to help out with. A number of our different state projects have been focused on the Riley's Children's Hospital. Going back from 2018, the 2018 project was the Riley's Trauma Center. There was also a Riley's Hands in Autism, or an autism program in 2016, a cancer center in 2015, a Riley Kids Camp in 2014, Riley's Critical Care Transport in 2012. So those are just the Riley-focused ones, but there have been others. For instance, a Special Olympics was 2017.
Nice, very nice. That's a great organization.
Yes.
So.
And a Peyton Manning Children's Hospital in 2013. Also the auxiliary, I've not mentioned that and should. I'm a part of the area is called, or the men's organization. There's also each location has an auxiliary with the ladies who lead it, and they also have a president and other officers, and they we're joined together and we do things locally together, but they too have their own state projects. And so the ladies have done something on the Special Olympics in Indiana in 2017, for instance, or Anna's Celebration of Life in the prior year. So the auxiliary is brother and sister kind of organization. We work together hand in hand, and it's good.
Well, it's almost like then there's like two different focuses. So the auxiliary is focusing on something, and then the girls and the boys are thinking about different things.
To an extent, and yet neither would get along without the other. We both realize, we need each other.
Well, we're kind of wired that way.
Yes, I guess so. It's natural.
As we pan out. Well, fancy that. That is wonderful. I think it's great that there's two different things rolling. It's two different conversations and two different projects and things.
Yeah, and we certainly have room enough for helping in multiple ways.
Sure.
And,
supporting each other.
And these are the state projects, but again, we're also doing things at all sorts of local levels as well. But we try and help out as we can.
Let me go back and just kind of ask a question about the auxiliary. So who decides what the project's going to be about that? Is it also the incoming president brings up what's closest to their heart? Okay. Interesting. Because there's so much stuff that passes my radar.
Well, yeah, me too.
Yeah. If anyone needs suggestions, I've got a few of them. Some local things that are happening.
Oh.
Yeah, in our there are amazing things that people just aren't aware of.
I bet so. And that's actually what we're for. We're not just focused on children's hospitals, but on how can we help the local communities that we're in.
Right.
That's our whole entire focus. And so as people bring up ideas, they are, and we could do this, and that's what we're for. So it would be wonderful to get some of your ideas. In fact, we should do that perhaps afterwards. Get an understanding of that. So where could we fit in? You doing what you do would be a great source of ideas for us.
Sure, absolutely.
People like us to help out in areas, but we're that may be out there, but we're not aware of.
Right. Well, exactly. And I think, and so like those that follow my show, and thank you all that follow, know that where my heart gets pulled is for, I tend to target places that just need that little bit of extra, someone being aware of it, because you don't know if you present an idea that someone's going to go, I didn't even know that was in my backyard. That pulls my heartstrings or my wallet strings or whatever that happens to be. And that's how it all keeps growing. But I would be honored to be part of the process of connecting those dots for somebody.
Oh, wonderful. This
is handy.
Perfect.
Right? Yeah. Who'd have thought that was there?
Well, I didn't anticipate that part.
No. So
but it makes sense given what you do.
Absolutely. There's a couple things that are already coming to mind that I want to share. So, and those are things that I've already featured on my show. So, my followers and listeners are already kind of aware of some things going on out there. But lots of people doing lots of good things. And the more we spread of that, the better. I almost like to counterbalance everything else out there. So bring a little positivity out there. because we don't have enough of it.
No, we don't. And that's kind of why I so enjoy being part of this organization. It's wonderful to be part of something larger than yourself.
Yeah.
And where you're helping out people. You're not just doing something for yourself, but you're giving yourself to others, something you well know.
Yeah.
And that's it's meaningful, and you feel you're doing something good with your time here.
It's a privilege to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
I bet so.
You probably feel that way too.
Well, in a way, yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to be a part of the cog, part of the wheel.
Well, again, to be doing something beyond yourself is a beautiful thing.
Agreed. So let's talk a little bit about the Eagles, because I know nothing about that. So is it like open to anybody in the community can request membership, or how do they?
Yes, you would be aware of them in your communities, and the general idea is you come in, or maybe a member might invite you in, and you would come in and see the place, find that it was to your liking, that you feel comfortable, and we are as welcome as we could be, wanting and needing that, because as we have a number of members, people move away, people pass on, and so we constantly need new members. One of the core things that we need to work on is membership.
Sure.
And so we're actively seeking additional members, knowing that it's kind of our heartblood, our we need this for our strength and for continuing on. So you'd come in and see the place, see what we're doing, see that it's comfortable, and then you would request membership, putting out your name and address and contact information, and then the membership would vote on this potential member, and in most cases they're voted in. In some cases we don't, where we have no goodniks, we'll call them kindly. And
they're everywhere.
Well, yes, but and sometimes you can identify them before they get in your organization. Sometimes not.
Hopefully you can. Yeah, I'm sure.
But so you'd be voted in and then initiated and become an Eagle and start on our efforts to gather funds and help the community.
What's the time investment if I said I want to do that, and I looked at joining a local club or organization, a local?
As much as you wish.
Oh, okay. So there's not like a minimum, like, hey, you got to devote 20 hours a year or whatever into the...
We do. Our particular locations have 2 meetings per month on a particular evening and time for about an hour. But you don't have... Many of the members don't attend. We, of course, the leadership want people to attend so that we have more and more people tossing in ideas and making themselves available for doing the work necessary to go forward. But you don't have to. So you give as much as you have interest and time for.
That's nice.
Well, it's flexible.
Yeah, that's not normally how I think of it. So usually I think there's a lot more commitment to, and a lot of people shy away. But I know that what you're describing with like the challenges of maintaining and increasing membership is kind of everywhere. I mean, I've heard from a lot of different organizations that we're just not able to pass the torch anymore to the younger set, just aren't stepping up and saying, okay, now it's my turn to serve. That's kind of maybe more of a generalized conversation about how we're all operating, or expectations we're putting on the younger set to come forward, and now it's your turn.
Yes, well, that occurs, and there's some growing pains there. Sometimes it takes a little effort to get a younger person to commit to say, yes, I'll commit to being this officer. I'll show up to these meetings. I'll help on the things that are required. And we have a social room where we are and meet, and sometimes the young ones are playing on the jukebox, rap music, and the older people are listening to Hank Williams or something. And so there's a certain tension.
That's funny.
But we have to. We are aware that tension exists, and we have to accept that god awful music. But
and you know what they're thinking there too.
Well, and they're right from their point of view. Yeah, for God's sakes. So it's a little push me pull you.
Yeah, that's funny. I can see them both. When's that going to end?
But no, that's part of the deal, and part of it, is essentially mentoring people who hadn't been in, young folks who hadn't been in leadership positions. Yeah. They kind of get encouraged to, and then gently and maybe not so occasionally molded and helped and steered, and soon they find themselves self-sufficient, and they don't need that steerage any longer, and they are developing in that way and growing, and so it's and they become officers, and they then are the ones who are looking for and training and mildly molding the people coming on. So it's a healthy thing.
Well, I think it's amazing. And it's not just like, I see like the benefit within the organization for sure, but then like how that vibrates out, so that affects who they are in their day-to-day, in their working life, in their relationships with their families, all of that stuff just elevated.
Well, yes, and if they see and if they feel that they become doing things that are thinking beyond themselves and helping other people, that becomes a core value.
Sure.
And that's a beautiful thing.
That's a great thing.
Well,
we need more folks with that core value.
And it's not the kind of thing you can preach at someone and have it be terribly successful. But if you can get them and have them start digging or cutting or chopping or organizing or doing something, they find, it's probably more effective by doing than
always
or talking.
Always.
Yes.
So. Yeah, we have enough of that stuff.
Wow.
What? So I get this, and I really like that it's like an easy organization to get involved in. That's a comfort. Do you do anything like socially within the organization as well?
Oh, sure. We have we have a social room, which is you can come in and have drinks or alcohol or not, and we have events during the week and during the month. We have children's parties for Easter and for Christmas, of course, and things like that. So, and DJs and dances and such, I guess.
Yeah.
So, we and you become friends and family, and it becomes part of life.
It almost makes me think like it creates a sense of community, and I know we've got such a lack of that in different conversations over the past 50 years or whatever, but how much that shifted and how nifty that would be.
Well, I see your point. Or yes, because not only are these people you're just choosing to spend time with, but you're all working on something outside of yourself again, helping the community, and so you become shoulder to shoulder. Sure. Going forward to do something for the local kids. One year there was a special donation by an individual, just a working class guy, but he found himself later in his life and he had some extra money and it was donated, and it was focused on buying new bicycles for children. So in a small little section of Gary, in kind of a tough part of town where there is a bunch of obvious need, and parents might not be able to afford a new bike for kids. 74, 75 different kids got new bikes one year. Wow. And that was an awful lot of fun and rewarding to be part of.
Sure.
And those of us who planned on that and then gathered those bikes and got the kids in and they were given to them, I mean, you form lasting real relationships with those people that you're working on these types of activities
sure.
With. So it's rewarding and meaningful, and I think it helps people get into the mind of doing more good things. What
right.
can we do next year? What can we do next?
Right. I get that.
So,
how long have you been with the organization?
Oh, God, I don't even know. 15 years, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. And do you like the position you hold?
Yes. Yeah, quite a bit. I not only am the secretary in the local organization in Black Oak, in Gary, and so I pay the bills and all that stuff, but I'm also the district director, as you mentioned earlier, where I have a responsibility to walk around and take a look at the other six. There's 6 of them in Lake County, Indiana, and see that they're doing things they're supposed to be doing and helping out as possible and finding problems and trying to resolve them. And so I'm even getting beyond the organization that I'm directly involved with, and helping out other people and helping them be successful and helping them avoid the problems and the pitfalls that regularly happen.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just because of the nature of how it operates.
Well, yes, it's it's funny because it's one thing to run a small business.
Yeah.
It's another thing to essentially be running a small business, a charitable organization, with volunteers, because we don't have a dedicated, focused, trained businessman.
Yeah.
We just have somebody who just regular folks. They raised their hand one day and said, "Okay, I'll do that," and now you have them making essentially business decisions.
Right.
And sometimes that can be a challenge. Right. Sometimes not necessarily the best decisions are made. And so sometimes you kind of have to go back there and work on it a little bit and fix things that need to be fixed and try and prevent boo-boos from happening and all the while being positive and focusing on the good that we do.
Well, and encouraging
using
the fact that somebody...
Yeah,
no, I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, you certainly don't want to offend somebody because you want them to stick around and continue.
But sometimes you say, "Oh my goodness, what did they do?" Oh dear, we're gonna have to fix that. So,
that's funny.
Well, it is, but that's just the nature of running an organization with volunteers.
Absolutely,
Not necessarily, being the businessman. You're very focused on doing things you should and avoiding risk and such, and that's not always quite so obvious to someone who's new at it.
Yeah. Right.
So it's there's some growing pains there.
Sure.
And in my district director position, I get to help identify some of those problems and try to work around it through them and suggest other ways of accomplishing good results.
How long have you been doing the district?
Oh, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, 8, something like that.
Okay, so
long time.
A good minute.
Yeah, and again, it's occasionally frustrating, but largely quite rewarding and a lot of fun. And it's great to be helping people, and again, getting beyond yourself and helping the people who then help the community.
Right.
So it's a couple of levels of helpness.
Yeah, it is. Do you ever get to be on the front line anymore? I mean.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, so you get it all then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's kind of nifty. Really? Don't you think? I mean, wow.
Well, sure.
Usually you get up there and you don't get to get your hands dirty anymore.
Oh, dear God, no. I enjoy cooking as a hobby personally.
Okay.
And so it's easy to use my cooking interest or skills in having an event. So I have cooked for a bunch of different events, and I get to practice my cooking on other people, and sometimes it's successful, sometimes not.
That was exactly when you say practice your cooking, I'm like, wait a minute, what is he talking about?
But in that way, I'm doing something, and I go gathering. So last weekend, I made pulled pork for a party and for a bunch of people.
Wow.
And so I spent 3 days going through that process.
Wow.
And so sure, I mean, again, it's you give as much as you have time and interest and energy for, and it was kind of fun. And yes, no, I definitely get my little paws into things.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, because what would be the point of doing the job that you do if you don't get to be on the front lines and actually be part of all that good stuff? I don't know that I could do that.
Well, sure you could.
Hold that upper level capacity and not be able to touch the one-on-one. I don't know.
Well, it comes naturally.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you want to lead by example, and you can't just be sitting here again, be telling people what to do.
Yeah.
That's not any good. But you can show people by doing, and that's perhaps a more productive leadership style. That
agreed, but I think I don't think that's the norm. I think the alternative is the norm.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I find, and this is just world according to Terry, is that sometimes in a lot of ways when you start to elevate up, that those folks once elevated for a certain period of time actually lose. They just lose touch with what's happening on the ground floor and what's happening with the day-to-day.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, that would be dangerous.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. What is that? Oh, I know. And I don't watch a lot of television, but I am familiar with a show called Undercover Boss, where they take...
Oh, okay.
Got it. This is the concept, right? Dress him up, put him on the front line, and because he has so lost touch with what is it like to be the one at the counter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I mean.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got the underhanded compliment, and I'm going to take it. Thanks. But that said, I think it's neat that you get to hover in whatever area you want to hover, and contribute all the ways that you want to contribute. That's pretty amazing.
Sure.
Yeah. I think
it seems natural, but
yeah.
You raised a good point.
Yeah, I think the alternative is more the norm. So okay, something's crossing my mind, and it probably was a conversation that I had with the gentleman before I located you. Something about a turkey shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a turkey shoot coming up?
There's one going on each Saturday and Sunday between the 8 weeks prior to the weekend before Thanksgiving in the Black Oak Fraternal Order of Eagles in Gary. In our backyard, we're up against a railroad embankment, and so we put 8 targets up in front of it, stand back a certain distance, and create a line. And for a small fee, you get to take a shot at one of the targets. And of the 8 people, one of them gets an individual pellet closest to the center of the target, and they then get a free ham or a turkey or some side of bacon or something.
Cool.
Yeah. And the money, the excess monies are used for charity. And it's also good because it's a lot of fun to shoot shotguns in the backyard on Saturday afternoons.
I get that.
It's good for our membership because we get people in that wouldn't otherwise come. And so we've got a bunch of members from doing this. So this is we're not only generating some revenue, but we're also bringing new members in.
Sure. There's an awareness there.
It's fun. But I recall one year, many years ago, when somebody you submit an application to the city of Gary asking people to do this to getting a permit. And somebody from their legal department called me and she says, I'm looking at a piece of paper and this says that you want to be given permission to be shooting shotguns in the city of Gary. With all the problems in the city, you think you want to be shooting shotguns? And I said, well, yes, you have exactly correctly. And she made it an appointment to come out and speak with me, brought somebody else, and I spent several hours planning and had a couple pages worth of detailed notes, showed how we were being careful, how safety was the first priority, and we've been doing it for some time, and we have a process by which it is safe, and we keep watch in case someone were to do something not safe.
Right.
We stop it right away, and she signed the permit ultimately, but her voice was just dripping with sarcasm. You want me to authorize you to? Oh, that was funny.
That is good. It is almost like an oxymoron.
Well, a bit, yes.
Yeah.
But it may have helped that we were helping children locally with the
probably
proceeds from this.
It's probably you get the
as
permit.
Opposed to, you want a what?
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, nice.
So that's an example. And in fact, I was out this weekend helping run that, so I was getting my little hands in it.
What can you give me the hours and the location of that?
Yes,
folks over there.
This runs between 1 p.m. and dusk on Saturdays and Sundays, the 8 weekends before Thanksgiving, currently, and the address is 7229 West 25th Avenue in Gary. So, and we're friendly, and people can come off the street. You don't have to be a member to be part of this event.
This is fun.
So just show up. Yeah.
You might actually see me out there.
Well,
yeah.
If you have one, bring a shotgun. If not, we have a house gun that can be used.
Oh, good. I'll need the house gun.
That's fine. But yeah, it's fun. And
that does sound like fun.
And it's kind of noisy and
sure. Well, in a good shotgunny way, kind of way.
Yes, and
yeah,
and even some underage people have been brought in by their parents.
Yeah.
Supervised. I mean, the father typically stands directly behind him with his arms across his shoulders. But people learn to shoot the gun, and in so doing, they learn to respect firearms.
Sure.
And to respect their use, and to realize they're not toys to be goofed around with. This is not time to be, doing something funny.
Right.
And you learn respect, and you learn to not fear it, but to respect it. And so that's actually good for kids too.
I think so.
As opposed to learning about them in some other fashion. It might not be quite so controlled and healthy and driven by the respect required for their use.
I hear that. What's the cost to shoot? Do you know?
$3.
Oh, stop! That's it?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so how many times do you get to shoot?
As many times as you pay $3. Last Sunday we had, I think, 18 different rounds. I think the Saturday before there was about 10 or 11.
Okay.
Before there just weren't enough people there, and they had. So we just do it until either time runs out, it begins to get approaching dark, or people are done.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. I like that. That's a real fun event that you're hosting there.
It is, and again, the monies are used for local, for kids local. So not only is it kind of fun, but you also realize that some of the cost is going for kids.
Yeah. Right. Lots of opportunity for folks to join the organization or come visit the organization or see what it's about and what you're up to.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really neat thing.
Yes.
And I think we all know that there's like a Fraternal Order of Eagles in the community, but it's almost one of those things that almost drifts into the landscape a little bit.
Yes.
That we don't realize that it's there because it's been there for so long, and it's probably like an icon and all those
And
things.
it's a building, and people aren't members; they kind of stay away, and
Right.
It's at arm's length.
Right.
But again, because we know that, as I said before, we know we need members. We need new members. We need young folks to come in, and so we do have open arms and invite the public to stop by, and check us out, and if they're comfortable, stay and become Eagles and enjoy the fun things we do like this, and also help out with kids.
Are there any other things that you guys do? I mean, the turkey shoot sounds like just a tons of fun, but anything else that's kind of in that conversation where it really draws in the public or appeals to somebody that might not know it's there? Well,
we have, as I said, kids events during the year where we invite non-members from the community in for the Easter egg hunt. So we feed them lunch and put eggs out and games, and they get prizes, and all that sort of stuff goes on. Same sort of thing with Christmas, giving gifts, and again, not necessarily members, but of the community in a certain radius around. Other organizations, not necessarily mine, but the Hessville organization or the one in Glen Park, do a great job of getting Christmas baskets for families together. So they find out about people that could use a hand, and so the members go out and gather up all sorts of big piles of food. It's wonderful to see Hessville, particularly where they have their whole back room just full of foods that have been donated. And then after they've gathered them up for some period of time, they all get together one day and divvy them up into boxes and bags and things, and then they're distributed and delivered. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's appreciated. It's kind of too bad we only do it a couple times a year, but the need is constant. But it's an example of reaching out and doing something that's appreciated.
Right.
That's helpful.
I'm always drawn to things that are not focused around the holiday seasons and things, because it seems like our hearts probably beat a little bit more warmly during those periods of time, but that there's just so much already out there, serving the community. So I always like to look for things too that are kind of that can be done anytime during the year. So a lot of things I've seen in the past. So.
We have an ongoing relationship with a nearby church who runs a food bank.
Yeah.
And so we donate regularly to the food bank, and that runs constantly, as an example.
Yeah.
And did I mention previously the back to school event and backpacks?
Yeah.
That's another.
That one I did something there was some sort of an event, and we were doing that as well somewhere in Maryville. I remember last year serving because I was on a board, and it was part of just fulfilling some of the contribution from that board. But I have seen that as well. There, here's another one, just to kind of throw this out here, but years ago I used to go into the city in Chicago, and I used to volunteer for an organization that served an area that had the highest population of homeless youth, and it's the Wrigleyville area in Chicago. I know, right?
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they had a facility that they could open up a couple of times a week, and they would serve pizzas or at least something for the kids to eat. But they also had like a van where they would kind of drive around the community because they knew where the kids would kind of hub.
Yes.
And they would have clean socks, clean underwear, granola bars, juice boxes, things like that, that they could at least get some sustenance or things that they needed. Toiletries, huge toiletries were needed. So socks and underwear, because they don't have a place to launder, so they just use them till they can't any longer and throw them away, and then they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's, like, I always think of things like that. Like, I wish that, like, when I look in Indiana, I think I wish that there was something like that here, and I don't know that if it's there, find me. Let's get it out there so people know it's out there and they know what they're donating for. But things that serve all the time are really kind of nifty to me.
In a smaller way, we are involved with it. Winter jackets and gathering those and distributing those before the winter weather as they're lost or needed, or as kids are growing and parents are struggling to get by.
Sure.
That is an example that is similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a definite need. I'll tell you another one. And this is not something that I've ever had on the radio show, but somebody had mentioned that there were 2 women that were operating a non-for-profit out of Valparaiso, and in the summertime they go to the local parks and they have bag lunches for the kids because kids are in income distressed situations. There might not be food in the household, so going to school means that they get to eat that day. And when school's not in session, there's a lot of hunger. Even in communities that we perceive to be more affluent than others, there's profound need. And what surprised me is that in short order, when these women were operating this, that the kids, communicate, and all of a sudden there were like lines of kids just waiting for them to show up at the park with the lunches.
Boy, that's both heartwarming and
heart-wrenching.
Yeah, both.
It really is. So I would love things like that too, that we just don't even think about. Who'd have thought about that? But so those kind of things are neat. And food pantry is always a good thing.
Yes,
always a good thing. So that was one of the ones that that I was thinking about. I would love to connect you to. So a couple of ladies that do it, and I think they're in Valparaiso now because they just relocated, but. They do it, and there's all that is required to get a bag of food is your name. So you don't have to be approved by the trustee or go through those motions. Their feeling is it's not for them to judge whether or not somebody actually needs the bag of food. It's not for them to qualify that, right?
Yeah.
So, when I had met with them, they are open twice a month, 2 days a month. And they open up for 3 hours. Well, people get in line for hours for them to open the doors. And on 6 hours a month, collectively between the 2 times, they serve 1,800 families.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well,
that's a place where it's like, those are the kind of things that I love to see get prospered and supported.
Yeah.
So.
I'm looking forward to our conversation afterwards.
Right?
We can get other ideas how the
Yeah.
Eagles could get out of those things that we regularly do and branch out in other ways to help the community, because that's our desire and interest and goal. This is good. And you're a great person to talk to because of what you do and those people you come in contact with, with the knowledge you accumulate. Yep,
and the people that come through, and that commitment is my commitment. So it's makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah.
I also like it's just such a cool thing to be able to bring light to somebody's passion that way, and then I'm lucky enough that when this kind of effort and energy gets some awareness and they get something for that, then they are always circling back around to tell me, what's happened for them and who's shown up to volunteer, what kind of donations they've gotten as a result of, a radio show.
Good for you. And
good for everyone.
Well, and you're obviously working hard at doing what you do, and so it must help to see that you are having an effect, and wonderful things are coming from you connecting.
Yep. And from it getting more exposure and getting, it's nice to be recognized sometimes, but it's more it's more exciting that that recognition creates a gift for somebody else that might not have otherwise received it. So, yeah, it's kind of nifty and humbling at the same time. It's like straddling both those things at one time, just to say. So,
well, we all like a little pat in the back once
we
in a while.
do. Everybody wants to be the star.
But as I said, it's fun to be doing something beyond yourself.
Oh,
and that's rewarding.
I think it's a need. I think it's a human need to do that. And I think that, when I look at a lot of people, again, in a very non-judgmental way, it's like there are times in my life that I might not have had enough to give to anybody else. It was just a matter of getting through the moment of whatever was life circumstance. But, and I think a lot of people spend more time there than not. And so, but I think every so often, everybody not should, but could. And like we all kind of say, well, you get so much more back when you give. But I think, we lose sight of that. People lose sight of that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. So, the lady who lives next door to me is 86. Her husband's gone. She lives by herself. She has family near that comes around, but I have kind of helped out, and so I go plant flowers in her flower plant and I water them daily mostly, and
wow.
you just a little shoveling here and now, or the newspaper's been left out here, and you can bring it in. So it's nice to do something for somebody who could use some help, however smaller. I was dragging her garbage bag after her garbage can was emptied at the road, and I was bringing it back the other day up to her garage, and she was waving out the window at me, and that's nice to be helping somebody and to have them, smiling and waving and being thankful for just the thought. And walking out to the garbage into the front street and back is no big thing, but
it is to her.
Well, yes, because she sees somebody who cares and who's interested and who wants to help out.
And I can imagine that there are many, many times that she probably feels very alone without her husband there anymore, and that's a connection that there's somebody looking out for her. There's somebody else is aware of that she's there. Yeah, I remember before I moved where I moved, I lived in a townhouse, and I lived on the upper floor, and there was an elderly gentleman below, and he was very ill, and he was alone there, and this was not a well-constructed townhouse because I could hear him snore, and I could hear nights that he would be struggling for breath. He would be, and so I got to the place of sleeping so lightly that if he was really struggling, I had his daughter on I would call her and I would say, your dad's, and it was just the gratitude, and he knew, because his daughter would check in on him, and Terry called and said, you're struggling last night, are you okay this morning? And so he knew somebody was there. There's something about that, so.
Yeah, as we touch each other in some fashion, it creates a spark.
Yeah, indeed. Love that conversation. Thank you. So let's go back and circle to the Eagles again. Let's go back to them. So when is it you guys actually provide the benefit to the Riley Hospital? Is it toward the end of your fiscal year?
Yes. Yes, again, it goes June 1st to May 31st, and soon thereafter we have a convention in Indianapolis each year, and at that convention, the third week of June, all the monies are brought together, and we have a big dinner, and all the sums that have been donated to lots of different things, including the state project, are announced, and that's a lot of fun.
Oh,
to see
sure.
That, we all do our little thing. I donated some monies. Was it last weekend at the fall conference we had in Cedar Lake, near here. The whole state was here, and I don't know, $2,586 we had gathered from a district picnic we had, and so that check was given to the state president, Charlie, and then all that will be added up, and then so here you've risen to $250,000 or something. And that's kind of fun to see that all the little things that are done add up to something big and meaningful, and that amount of money or something near it is expected to be gathered and that will fund the Riley's Heart Center monitoring program for 4 years.
Wow.
So that'll be a lasting thing, and then we'll jump on to the next thing.
That's huge.
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah. So but the state project's an annual thing, and then a large donation made once to the organization.
What percentage of your members actually go to the convention?
Excuse me?
What percentage of your membership attends the convention?
It's small. Less than 10%.
Okay.
So not as many as you'd hope for.
Yeah.
But still, most of these are leaders who are past presidents and secretaries and the top leadership of the local organizations, typically. And so we're kind of bringing our contributions together.
That's amazing.
Well, it is kind of fun. It's really heartwarming to see all these donations all add up. I have my little piece, and somebody else has theirs, but to see them all added up to getting to a large number was it's meaningful. We could fund this program at the Children's Hospital for 4 years. Well, that's
huge.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's one. So you say, well, it's worth all those all that running around and all that.
Sure.
Those things you've done trying to do your part.
You were a piece of that big check.
Yeah.
That gets presented.
Yeah.
Wow. And when do you find out what next year's president is going to run?
About the same time. The new president is then announced, and he then announces his new state project and gets everyone ready to go out and do it again for this other organization.
Right.
And off we go again.
How exciting.
Yeah.
That's really neat. I like it.
And it goes on and on.
I like that it freshens up every year. Like you hit the reset button every year.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's neat.
Probably so. Probably so.
I think so.
Yeah. And again, it's easy to get behind the idea of children's hospitals or helping out kids.
Sure.
So that's a good. And as I'm approaching retirement, I will surely spend more of my time on this because I'll have the opportunity. And the folks that I work with are kind of like family. Mm-hmm. And so we bond and we grow. We say, well, let's see, what can I do for these folks? So I, for instance, thought, having interest in cooking, I could start a one night a week kitchen, or one night a month or something, and I could put on a big dinner. I get a couple helpers and put on a dinner for 30 or 40 or something, and gather some monies together, and I could do this on an ongoing basis. Oh. People have said, well, you like cooking so much, you do a good job pretty often. Why don't you open a restaurant? I said, oh my God, no. 60, 80 hours a week.
Yeah, stress.
All sorts of problems, people calling off,
right.
You're running out of this, you don't have enough of that, you got too much unsold fish lying around, all the problems of that. But so I'm trying to find a way to show my care for people and interest in cooking, but do it in a way that's not driving myself crazy trying to run a restaurant. So that might be a good channel for that.
Well, it kind of feeds you, not literally, but literally, feeds your soul. But I don't feel a restaurant. No. I think what would be interesting, it would be to start to kick around an idea of bringing cooking and education together in some way. Because I think about how that's kind of almost a lost art, and it has been for a number of years, where people aren't passing down the skill of cooking at home, or for whatever reason, if you're looking to just have more home cooked versus takeout or processed or healthy or whatever the focus would be. But what a neat way to experience